Welcome to the first episode of the Redmond Deep Dive. I'm your host, Chris Paoli.
And I'm David Rammel. Today we're kicking off our new series with an in-depth look at SQL Server and why it remains a compelling choice, despite steep competition from open source alternatives.
That's right, David. We're diving into some fascinating insights from SQL Server MVP and architect Joey D'Antoni, who recently wrote in his latest RedmondMag.com column about why SQL Server still delivers value despite its higher price tag compared to free options like PostgreSQL and MySQL.
Let's start with the elephant in the room: cost. SQL Server Enterprise Edition runs about $7,000 per CPU core, plus another 23% if you add software assurance. That's a significant investment for any organization.
And when a CIO or CTO is just looking at budget line items, those free open source alternatives can look mighty tempting. But Joey makes some compelling arguments for why SQL Server might still be worth that premium.
One of the biggest advantages, he points out, is in high availability and backups. While cloud services have somewhat leveled the playing field for PostgreSQL and MySQL in these areas, SQL Server's native capabilities are far more mature and integrated.
Absolutely. Joey notes that clustering SQL Server or building an availability group is well documented and works with Windows Server failover clustering. Compare that to Linux environments where you might be dealing with multiple disparate packages and complex failover procedures.
And speaking of improvements, we should mention that Microsoft recently announced that SQL Server 2025 will include significant enhancements to always-on availability groups. They're making algorithmic changes to reduce the need for restarting nodes or reseeding databases after failures.
That's going to be a huge relief for DBAs who've struggled with those transient failures. And backup capabilities have traditionally been another area where SQL Server shines compared to open source options.
Right. Joey points out that PostgreSQL's backup options are limited. SQL dumps, file system level backups that require shutting down the database, or continuous archiving that's complex to implement. SQL Server's backup restore process is much more straightforward.
Another key advantage Joey highlights is SQL Server's integrated feature set. With PostgreSQL, you're constantly adding extensions to get functionality that comes built into SQL Server.
He mentioned an experience trying to use the geography data type in PostgreSQL, which requires the PostGIS extension. Even after installing it, he ran into errors that were difficult to troubleshoot.
In contrast, features like temporal tables and graph databases are native to SQL Server, while PostgreSQL requires various extensions that may not be consistently available across different hosting environments.
When it comes to performance, Joey acknowledges this is a more complex comparison. Both systems can handle massive workloads, but SQL Server provides better tools for monitoring and optimization.
The query store, robust execution statistics, extended events, and dynamic management views all give SQL Server administrators deep visibility into performance issues. PostgreSQL requires additional packages to approach this functionality.
Speaking of tools, there's a clear gap between SQL Server Management Studio and PostgreSQL's PG Admin. Joey describes SSMS as light years better despite any complaints users might have about it.
And SQL Server 2025 will bring a much requested update to SSMS, dark mode, plus Git integration and Copilot assistance for writing T-SQL queries. Little things that make a big difference for daily users.
Joey also highlights the SQL Server community as being second to none, even compared to open source projects known for their broad communities. Whether it's conferences or online forums, knowledgeable people are always willing to help.
SQL Server 2025 will also introduce AI capabilities, supporting both cloud-based and locally hosted AI models. Users will be able to call services like Azure OpenAI or local options like Ollama and VLLM directly from the database.
Plus, a native JSON data type with indexing support, which will improve performance over the current approach of storing JSON in varchar max fields. And a feature called Change Streaming to provide real-time analytics on transactional data.
It sounds like while open source databases have certainly come a long way, SQL Server still offers some compelling advantages for organizations that can justify the investment.
And with the improvements coming in SQL Server 2025, Microsoft is clearly committed to keeping its database platform competitive in both on-premises and cloud environments.
Well, that wraps up our first episode of the Redmond Deep Dive. We want to thank Joey D'Antoni for his insightful articles that formed the basis of our discussion today, and make sure to check out more database insights in his monthly SQL Server column on Redmond Mag.
If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe to this channel for more deep dives into Microsoft technologies and enterprise computing. I'm David Rammel.
And I'm Chris Paoli. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you on the next Redmond Deep Dive.